Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. G'day and welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. Darren Mitchell here on a very cold and overcast, or the sun is trying to break through here in the Macedon Ranges on this Monday, 17th of June 2024. And I say cold because we're well and truly in the middle of winter. It hasn't snowed yet, but it has been known to snow here. It's about 4 degrees cooler up where we live in the Macedon Ranges compared to Melbourne. And for those who live in the area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're brand new to the podcast, I wanted to thank you first and foremost for finding the podcast on the various podcast platforms, but second of all for plugging in. Hopefully there's enough information here and enough of an insight into sales and sales leadership to want you to come back and listen to some more episodes, but also check out the back catalogue. And of course, if you're a long-serving listener, greatly appreciate your continual, patronage in terms of coming by and listening to the podcast. I must say this is the first episode of a singular nature for about 4 months. Just looking today, I think it was about end of February earlier this year was the last individual podcast that I did. They've all been interviews since then, and I've got to say I've had the absolute pleasure and privilege of speaking with some phenomenal people from around the world, and they just keep coming. There's lots and lots more in the pipeline, so if you're loving what you're hearing, I'd love to get your feedback. Let us know in the notes section, particularly if you're on Apple or on Spotify, but if you want to send me a note, darren@darrenmitchell.com.au. Love to get your feedback on what you're taking away from the podcast, but also if there's any specific topics you'd like me to talk about as we move forward. Really interested in getting your feedback and more than happy to give you a shout out on the pod, of course, when and if we actually use that topic to hopefully share the love around sales and sales leadership. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about a topic, given that we are into the second last week for many of us, the financial year. And of course, if you don't have your financial year ending at the end of June, it will be the last 2 weeks of the quarter. Irrespective of that, there is lots and lots of pressure across many sales teams where companies are scrounging to get the deals closed as quickly as possible and to hit the number by the end of the month. Now, if you are in a company, and I've been here, where June 30 is the end of the financial year, it is all hands to the pump. And especially as a sales leader, no doubt this is the time where your regular, maybe weekly, or even in some cases your fortnightly cadence, where you're sitting down and analysing your deals, your forecasting and so forth, is probably turning into every couple of days. Or if it was like the companies I was at, the last week of the financial year, it was daily and sometimes twice daily, where we're doing forensic investigation into deals because we had to make sure that we were giving accurate forecasts to the powers to be, so that they could give some certainty to the board and other key stakeholders as to what we're going to hit in terms of our revenue numbers. What I also always was fascinated by, and particularly with the cadence when we're doing it twice a day, is it was very rare that a cadence from the morning would change in the afternoon, and yet it's almost like the expectation that the senior leaders would have that, there was some magic formula that we're going to implement that would turn a customer that perhaps was a possibility in the morning to an absolute certainty in the afternoon. And the problem with this is it means that everybody's focus is now on the finish line, and a lot of the things that have been done to get us to the finish line in the first place are put to the side or deprioritized, or in some cases discarded altogether. Now, I've been in companies where if the activity or the investment was not directly related to closing a deal by the 30th of June, it was not a priority. And unfortunately, this is often the directive from senior management which sets the tone for the entire team, resulting in short-term immediate attention, and it's all the instant gratification stuff that happens, and which meant that things like training, things like investments, things like long-term strategic plays were taking a back seat, and everything was in the short term. And I saw some of the behaviours such as, if we can't get the existing deals over the line by June 30 with our current financial offerings, let's do a fire sale. And it was horrendous because it was establishing, I guess, a thought pattern in the eyes of the customers and training them and conditioning them on how to deal with us into July and August, which quite frankly made it really, really difficult to build any credibility because the balance of power was sitting with the customer. They knew the June 30 deadline was creeping up, and our credibility was on the line because we'd be almost trained by senior leaders to offer special discounts in order to get the deals over the line. And I heard senior leaders even say things like, do whatever it takes to get the deal over the line. And the unfortunate thing about all of this, it meant that the normal method of doing business kind of got put to the side, and it was all, as I said, all hands to the pump, do whatever it takes. And it's kind of like they're saying, well, we'll worry about July when July hits. Let's get everything in before June 30. Now, with organisations who function like this, and unfortunately, there's still organisations that do this today, and they seem to be a bit of the majority. Well, what do you think happens on the 1st of July? Well, exactly. The conversation turns to what deals are we now going to close in the first month of the quarter, because the scoreboard goes back to zero, and all of these sales leaders are now talking to their sales teams about we need to make sure we get a fast start, not even thinking about the fact that we've tried to bring everything we possibly could into the last quarter of the previous financial year to try and get a number across the line because our company wanted everything in by the 30th of June. And often there was nothing left in terms of the good deals in the first quarter of the new financial year because everything was worked on to the June 30 deadline. And so the pattern starts to repeat. And what these organisations neglect to focus on and prioritise is the continual investment in their sales team. Now, when I say continual investment, it's continuing to invest in upskilling, in training, in workshops, in masterclasses. It's in coaching and mentoring. And unfortunately, all that's put to the side because everything has to be about the number. And then as soon as the 1st of July comes around, where people can almost take a breath, well, guess what? The pressure starts all over again because we need to make sure that we have a really fast start to the first quarter because, of course, like most organisations, the sales targets have probably not even been generated yet, but the expectation will be, well, there's going to be an uplift anyway, so let's get onto the bandwagon and let's start to get a fast start to the new financial year and get as many deals in the first quarter as we possibly can. So we're back to square one. This is not sustainable, and the stop-start nature of many sales organisations doesn't augur well for long-term loyalty of their sales team, but also, when you think about it, long-term loyalty to their customer base as well. So what are customers looking for? They're looking for organisations that are investing in their sales teams, that actually have some continuity within their sales teams, and they know that if they're going to do business with them today, they're going to have some longevity that potentially going to be there in 12 months or in 24 months' time. Unfortunately, a lot of the organisations now, it's such an affliction to the short-term focus, is they have a lot of turnover as well. And probably a symptom of that is the lack of training and the lack of development that is placed into the sales teams. And hence you see a lot of attrition, a lot of turnover. Now, don't get me wrong, sales is can be a dog-eat-dog world and can be a very high-pressure role. But in the right organisation with the right culture, it can also be a very, very rewarding role where you can deliver some sustainable long-term value, not just to the organisation, but more specifically to the customer base. So what is it that exceptional organisations do at this time of year, which is different? Well, I've been working with and had the privilege to work with a number of organisations over the last 9 years, and they do things differently. First and foremost, they recognise that if deals are not going to be in the commit phase right now, because as we are today, the 17th of June, here's a news flash. If you don't have a commit right now, it is very unlikely, dare I say, nigh on possible, that you're going to close that deal by the end of June. It's more likely going to be a Q1 or even a Q2 new financial year deal. So if you don't have deals right now in the commit, don't call them. The other thing these organisations do is they continue to prioritise forward planning and strategy development, always looking at least 90 days into the future. Yes, they're also focused on getting as much in as they possibly can, but based on what we just talked about, if it's not in the commit phase, they're not going to make a ridiculous call and say, yeah, we'll bring this in by the June 30, no worries, just trust us. They're going to say, no, pragmatically, based on where this particular customer is at, and we're playing the long game here, this is more likely to be a Q1 deal. which means we're going to continue to plan forward. We're going to still be here in 90 days' time. We're still going to be planting seeds, but we're actually going to give some longevity to this organisation, but also give a level of comfort to the organisation that we know what the hell we're doing. So strategy development and forward planning is also a key priority, particularly at this time of year for these organisations. And a key element of that planning is going to be sales team development, as well as individual development. Just because we're getting to the end of the financial year doesn't mean we're going to ensure that training, masterclasses, group and individual coaching and mentoring is going to be cancelled. And I'm absolutely staggered at the number of organisations. I've even had a few this month that said, we're so close to the end of June. What we're going to do is we're going to postpone all of our training and all of our mentoring, and we'll pick it up probably at the end of the first quarter because we want to now do some planning into the new financial year. Unfortunately, these organisations don't realise is time waits for no one. And the organisations that are planning now, that are doing the things now, are going to have the jump on their competition like they would not believe. So the organisations that are exceptional always make sure that their planning and their sales team development is a priority, irrespective of the time of year, and especially at this time of year. They make the training, they make the development, they make the coaching and the programs around coaching and mentoring a priority. They also recognise that when their competitors are focused entirely on pushing through deals to hit the June 30 deadline, they can create a clear and distinct competitive advantage by prioritising sales team development. Because as I said, they're going to be so far ahead of their competition, it is not funny. And because of that, they realise a significant jump on their competition in terms of results in the first quarter of the next financial year. So here's the key message out of today, and it's only a quick fire podcast today. Key message is this, that if you're a sales leader right now in an organisation and your organisation is deprioritising training and mentoring and coaching, then I'd be asking some serious questions about your organisation first and foremost. But as a sales leader, what can you do to continue to invest in your sales team to make sure the focus on sales team development and strategy development continues to be a priority moving forward and not something that is a nice to have? So as we begin this brand new sales week, which is 2 weeks until the end of the quarter, 2 weeks to the end of the financial year, just sit down and think about, where do you sit in relation to your sales team's focus? Are you purely under the pump to do everything in your power to deliver the numbers by the 30th of June? And is that the only thing that matters? Or are you continuing to focus your attention on investing in your sales team's development, knowing that this investment will not only assist your team in the short term, but set them up for sustained success in the mid to long term? And just a bit of a hint, this is where it should be focused. So if you are committed to overseeing a sales team delivering exceptional and sustainable results and would like some support in maximising their potential, either as a team or as individuals, hey, I'd love to help you. Send me a direct message either on LinkedIn or send me an email, darren@darrenmitchell.com.au, and happy to share with you some ideas that are working right now and hopefully map out a plan for you and for your team that can help you maintain that momentum, not just towards the end of the financial year, but more importantly, set you up for a massive financial year 2025. Because here's the thing, the pressure to perform is not going to go away. It is only going to get bigger. And it's the teams that can continue to invest in their team, continue to focus on strategy development, but also competency development that is going to give their team, their organizations, and most importantly, their customers the best opportunities to experience the best outcomes. So if that's you, I'd love to have a conversation with you and see how I might be able to support you in that endeavor. So as we wrap this particular podcast, first one of the working week, greatly appreciate you plugging into the podcast and very much look forward to sharing with you on the very next episode of the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. All the best. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it, but also if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.